world. It's your bearded brothers, and we are back yet again with yet another sports podcast. I am your bearded brother, Matt.
That's Loki.
That's Loki. And the owner sitting right behind him is...
Who cares? Everyone's here for the bird.
Ha ha! You gave him the bird. You know it's the word, right?
Some people say that.
Some people do say that. What is it? Has everybody heard about the bird?
Bird, bird, bird. Bird is the word.
Never forget that episode of Family Guy.
No.
When they took the record out, they did the Goodfellas with it, and they beat the crap out of it with the bat and stomped on it, and it was all slow motion.
The other one I always remember is Rock Lobster!
Just so dumb.
It was.
Oh, anyway, that's Chris. Took us long enough to get into that. We got stuff to go over.
We got stuff.
We got lots of stuff to go over. I'm going to start with all the non-NFL stuff because there is a little smidgen of NFL stuff that we'll talk about at the end. Like I said, there have been some massive trades in the other worlds, NBA and NHL.
I heard about the one in the NBA. I was rightfully shocked about that one.
There's actually 3 trades. 2 of them are gigantic.
I know, but there's the recent one that I was the trade I was not expecting.
I saw it and went, what? We'll get to it in a minute. First, we're going to talk about the Clippers who traded PJ Tucker to the Jazz. It happened February 1st, so it is part of the trade deadline wrap-up. The Clippers get from the Jazz Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills. The Jazz get Mo Bamba, PJ Tucker, and a 2030 second-round pick, along with cash considerations. I don't know what that means. Basically, they sent him some money. Here you go. Buy yourself a copier. That's not a great, huge deal, but, you know, it kind of makes sense for both sides. You're moving salary around, trying to find better players to fit what you're doing, yada, yada. Then this trade broke. 3-way deal. Lakers, Mavericks, Jazz. The Jazz, we're going to start there. The Jazz received Jalen Hood-Schifino, a 2025 second, well, 2 2025 seconds. One of them is the Clippers' 2025 seconds from somewhere. The Mavs receive Max Christie, a 2029 first-round pick, and Anthony Davis. This coming a day after the Lakers told Davis they weren't going to shop him at the trade deadline. But to be fair, when someone comes to you and offers you Max Kleber, Markieff Morris, and Luka Doncic, you don't go, no, you go, where do I sign?
I still can't believe that.
Nobody can. It's the silliest, most insane thing. And apparently, how much did the general manager of the Mavs have to hate Luka Doncic?
I was going to say, how much coke was he snorting?
So, my understanding was they had concerns. Apparently, his cardio training and training regimens as a whole weren't great.
Okay.
And he's due a max super deal extension in this offseason.
Right.
So they didn't want to deal with that. So your brain is doing what mine did. Rejecting that
literally, that doesn't make fucking sense. If you look at his play on the court, I don't think anything you're saying there makes fucking sense.
On people.
Yeah, I don't think anything that you just said makes fucking sense.
No,
I
it
realize
doesn't.
that's what they're saying, but it doesn't make fucking sense.
It doesn't at all. And most of their fans are literally calling for the GM's head now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would be. I'd be like, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" Well, look what our team was doing before Luka, and then look after Luka, and then tell me he wasn't worth that fucking money. Are you out of your fucking mind?
I don't get it. I don't want to get it. I haven't watched basketball or kept up with it majorly, but I know
No,
that.
neither have I. But all I'm gonna say is, as somebody that didn't watch a lot of basketball, even I know Luka was basically your star. Without him, I don't think you win another fucking title for a while.
Exactly.
Congratulations!
Exactly. Now, this next one is big. It just doesn't involve a name like Luca.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the third team because this is a trade involving the Spurs, the Kings, and the Bulls. The Bulls get Zach Collins, Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, and a 2025 first round pick from the Spurs. They basically brokered the deal.
Mhm.
The Kings receive Zach LaVine, a 2025 first rounder, a 2027 first rounder, a 2031 first rounder, a 2025 second rounder, a 2028 second rounder, and another 2028 second rounder. That's more of what you expect for something like Luka.
Yeah.
The fact that you only got one first round pick for him is stupid.
In 2029, by the way.
Yes. The Spurs receive Jordan McLaughlin and De'Aaron Fox. Point guard. And he's actually really good.
I'm not going to disagree with that, but that's an overpay if I've seen one.
I don't
that's an
think
overpay.
all of the picks came from them. I think the Bulls gave up some stuff for Collins, Huerter, and Jones as well.
Okay. So I was going to say, if that's all from them, that would be definitely
Well, no,
overpay.
one of the second rounders is because it's all picks that only one of them. Yeah. The 2027 first is from the Spurs. The 2025 first is a Hornets pick. I don't know who had it, but somebody had a pick from the Hornets. The 2031 pick is from the Timberwolves, and I don't know who had that. I'm going to assume that one was probably the Bulls.
Probably.
The 2025 second is the Bulls pick. The 2028 second is a Bulls pick. And there's a 2028 that was a Nuggets pick that I'm assuming probably belonged to the Spurs.
That was the Spurs one for sure.
Yeah.
That still feels like a little bit of an overpay personally, but it just mostly feels like they swapped around a lot of picks and then only gave up a couple picks themselves to get what they wanted with some player trades.
Yeah. I get where you're coming with that. That's a lot of picks, but there's always
I know that always
a lot of
happens. Yeah.
picks.
Especially whenever it's NBA and NHL, they love throwing picks around like they're fucking candy in comparison to NHL, compared to the NFL. So, okay. I mean, I get it. It's not a horrible deal. I mean, in comparison to the Luka deal, this is far more reasonable for sure.
This is a little bit of an overpay, I think, for De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, but it's still more reasonable. You can kind of be like, all right.
If you flopped these deals, I think it would feel more appropriate.
Probably. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just feels like I don't know how you give away Luka for basically
peanuts.
Peanuts, yeah. I was trying to be nice about it, but it is straight up basically peanuts.
Like, I get it, you wanted AD, but AD is what, 31 now?
Yeah,
and Luka was going in, he's 25, going on 26. You got, what, 7 or 8 more years of Luka and maybe 4 more years of AD?
At best, yeah. It's bizarre. That's all I'm going to say about that. It is incredibly bizarre. If I was that GM, I would be looking out my windows constantly in fear of somebody throwing a brick through it.
No. He's in Texas. They're not going to throw a brick through it.
Oh, no. Okay, fair enough. That'll be a very fast-moving small projectile.
Yes. This is Texas. We don't throw bricks.
Fair enough. Make sure you check your boots for snakes and scorpions.
There's a snake in my boot.
Ah!
All right. So, moving along, hockey news, because there have been a couple of really big hockey trades. We already talked about one. Obviously, we talked about the Rantanen trade.
Yep.
So, couple more. The Flyers. Philadelphia Flyers have acquired Andrei Kuzmenko and Jacob Pelletier, and a second-round pick in 2025 and a seventh-round pick in 2028 from the Flames for Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee. I feel like the Flyers did a pretty good job on this one. Kuzmenko is a pretty good forward. Frost and Farabee are both really good, or have the potential to be pretty damn good. But the Flyers got a second-round pick in the upcoming draft, a late-round pick later on, and Kuzmenko, which that's not bad. That fits kind of... I think Kuzmenko fits the idea of a Tortorella team a little bit more than maybe Frost and Farabee did. And for Calgary, they definitely wanted a little bit more high flying because they're starting to get skating well and playing very well. So having these young guys to come in with some of the older guys, this feels like a win for them. Now, I want you to think back to about 2 years ago. Can you do that, Chris?
I can certainly try, but my brain is terrible with memory.
We were talking about a guy in Vancouver named JT Miller, and we made fun of his defense, and he was rubbing teammates the wrong way, and they actually traded a guy because he and JT were getting into it with each other, and they wound up keeping Miller, and I said it was probably a mistake to keep JT Miller.
Okay.
You kind of remember that a little?
Nope. Not
Okay.
gonna lie to you. My brain is not good at long-term memory.
JT Miller hasn't been playing good defense this year. He's been rubbing a teammate.
Shocking.
Been playing rubbing the teammate the wrong way. After last season where they did really well together, this year he and Elias Pettersson are just getting into it with each other. They don't seem to be getting along. So finally, the New York Rangers have acquired JT Miller and Eric Brandstrom and Jackson Dorrington from the Canucks for Philip Hedl, Victor Mancini, and a first-round pick in the 2025 draft.
Well, at least they smartened up and got rid of the correct person this time.
Yes. So the Rangers desperately need offense right now.
Right.
Their defense isn't horrible, but they desperately need an offensive spark because for whatever reason, currently, Panarin and I can't remember their first line center's name, but I should know it. Whatever. The point is, that team that should be scoring, that won a President's Cup last year, hasn't been able to score quite as well as they did last year. So, bringing in a guy like Eric Brandstrom, who's a good defender, bringing in JT Miller, who you know can put pucks in the back of the net, and you have a team, especially with a goalie that can make up for his lack of defense. I think this is a good move for New York. Philip Hedl has had issues in New York. Most of them involve not getting concussed. So, if he could just not get concussed for a while, he'd probably be pretty good. And the first round pick certainly helps Vancouver because they are looking more and more like they're going to be on the outside looking in come playoff time. And then the Canucks spun around and made another trade. They acquired defenseman Marcus Pettersson, forward Drew O'Connor from the Pittsburgh Penguins for Danton Heinen, Vinny Descharnais, Melvin Fernstrom, and a first-round pick in the 2025 draft. So they basically took the pick they just got and flipped it back out again. In the meantime, they brought some good stuff in. They got rid of some other stuff. The Penguins are about to be in full-on fire sale mode. It's going to be interesting to see who they offer up, whether or not Sidney Crosby moves. Yeah. And then the last one is the Dallas Stars acquire Mikael Granlund and Cody Ceci from the San Jose Sharks for a first-round pick and a third-round pick in 2025. Look, this is exactly what the Sharks wanted to do. You've got a good, solid, super young core. You've had these older guys with them for a little while. Now it's time to move the old heads out and make room for the young youth movement that's coming in. This is exactly what the Sharks wanted to do. Granlund's stock will never be higher than it is right now. For the Stars, you just got word that one of your guys is going to be on the shelf for a while. So bringing in Granlund kind of relieves some of that. And also Cody Ceci on the defensive back end isn't the most horrible thing you could ever do. So, not horrible. All right, the last little bit we should probably talk about before we get into our awards. You ready?
Sure.
So, two things from the NFL that I think we need to talk about. Thing one, the Rams have made it known that they are attempting to shop and trade Cooper Kupp. We're not entirely surprised by this, seeing as how it was rumored that they were going to try to trade him at the trade deadline this last season.
Yeah.
And then they suddenly got good and decided not to do that. So we're not utterly surprised by it.
Not at all.
It sounds there are a few teams I think that'll probably be reaching out.
Also, I think the fact that they didn't trade him at the deadline was probably better for him because he did play well enough where you could argue that he's, even though with injury he's now still back to asking for a decent
exactly
picks
he played
or
well
players
enough
compared
that
to
you
before.
can see okay the injury didn't affect him too badly. We still have a good asking price on.
Like he's still probably I'm you could argue a first, but I'm more likely a second and maybe a player probably is my guess.
Yeah, that's what I'd be looking at. The question is who offers up for him. I'd say the Raiders are going to offer up for him.
Raiders definitely.
They would be dumb not to at least give it some consideration.
Try. Yeah. They have enough money to do so too.
They do have enough money and enough space to do so as well.
Funnily enough, the Bears.
Yeah, but the Bears have a lot of wide receivers. It's just a matter of protecting Caleb.
Some of them aren't very good though.
We'll see.
Bengals, they need more than Jamar Chase.
They do, especially if they're going to lose T. Higgins,
which it sounds like might happen.
The Patriots.
Patriots have a lot of money right now too. Yeah, they got a big enough cap.
Of money, and they've got a good young quarterback and somebody
that give him a pure wide receiver one. Yeah, that might be a good option. Yeah,
that's not a bad option. There's a few places he could go. We'll have to see what happens and where they end up getting a good offer for him at. I also think Atlanta might be looking at him too.
I could see Atlanta. I could see
Pittsburgh.
Maybe. I just don't know if Pittsburgh would make the deal. It's kind of like the same thing with the Browns, right? Like I can see the Browns trying, but at the same time, would that make sense? I was even thinking of the Jets at first. I was like, nah, they're probably not the Jets. Sickeningly enough, the Packers would be a good fit. I just don't think they need him right now.
No.
And as much as I want to say Arizona, they're definitely not going to try to trade within the division if they can. So probably not them either.
So
Jaguars.
The Jags.
That could be a good pick.
That would be interesting. Now
I could see that.
The other one is a player has requested a trade, and that would be Myles Garrett has requested a trade away from the Browns. Word leaking from Browns camp is that they have no interest in trading him and are not going to do
They
so.
actually, in fact, the GM outright said that he does not care what you offer. He will not be trading him.
I have not been able to find that quote recently, but I am certain that it is there.
It was apparently on. It wasn't like written down. It was in a one of those phone interviews that was done earlier in the season.
Now he can say that all he wants, but if Jimmy Haslam, who owns the team, decides, hey, we are going to make this deal, then he's going to have to reverse course pretty damn quickly.
True. I do feel, though, within the Browns camp, from everything I've heard, is that they legitimately have no desire to actually trade him. Is that right now it's all about trying to make him happy right now is what they're trying to do.
Yes. There may not be a solution outside of trading him. They would like
there may not be, but they're trying to find whatever solution they can.
Try to find out what his bone of contention is and try to fix it rather than trade him away. I think with him, what it is I'm in the prime. I'm nearing the end of the prime of my career, and I want to contend for Super Bowl. And we are not in a position to do that anytime in the near future.
I'm gonna pose something to you that I haven't brought up before, but is an interesting theory. There's two aspects you could go with this, right? Let's say he's unhappy because he doesn't see a future right now. But if I look at the team on paper, I do see enough quality there where they can make another playoff run at bare minimum if they can find a solution at their quarterback position. Now, hear me out on this, because it is something that I brought up earlier. Let's say Stafford decides to come back and play, but not for the Rams. That might be enticing enough, being that he's already won a Super Bowl, for Myles Garrett to possibly stay.
Maybe. The biggest problem you're going to have to deal with is still going to be how much...
Obviously, they had to fix that O-line 100%, no question.
That O-line, and how much does the owner still want to push Watson?
Watson, yeah.
Yeah.
That is obviously the big concern at the moment. But I'm just saying, if Myles Garrett goes, the biggest problem is a quarterback has to be changed, and the GM goes to the owner and goes, hey, the biggest contention is quarterback. We need to get a new quarterback. And the owner decides that, okay, I prefer to have Myles Garrett because because for several reasons, but the big one being that he's obviously been proven to be the best, I mean, arguably definitely one of the best in the business right now, but one of the best defensive ends you could possibly have as far as pass rushers go. I personally, as the owner, would say, okay, let's keep him. We can't cut Deshaun yet because of his contract, but let's see if we can bring in a Sam Darnold or a Matthew Stafford. Maybe that'll be enough to placate Myles Garrett. Now, obviously, that owner could be stuck up enough to go, no, I'm going to stay with Deshaun Watson, and that would be the absolute dumbest thing you could do. But if that is the direction he decides to go, then Myles Garrett probably will be traded.
Well,
I'm just going off
him. The problem is he doesn't have to trade him. But if
he
Myles does have a few
but...
cards to play, one of them is holding out, another one is sitting out, and the last one is, I'm just going to retire until my contract with you runs out.
Yeah. I was going to say there are options.
I'll be 31. I can always unretire, file unretirement paperwork with the league, and come back.
Yeah.
Friggin'
now, do you want to go through with all that? No, but you can do it.
You can. And you know what? It would be the middle finger to the Browns organization, which...
Well, that would also tell you how... I was going to say, it would tell you how horribly mismanaged it is, too, if that's the direction that it does end up going.
It absolutely is mismanaged. It's been for a while. Because
I agree, but it would be even worse. What I'm saying is that would put the nail in the coffin of how terrible it is.
So you look at it, though, and you go, they had Baker, and Baker was good for them a little bit in his rookie year. He's got a little better in his sophomore year, and then he had that shoulder injury that he tried to play through, where he looked terrible, and then you had Watson, who became available, and your owner said, we're going to make the move for Watson instead of keeping Baker. Keeping Baker would have been the smart thing to do.
It would have been with hindsight being 2020, but let's be honest, when we first heard about Deshaun Watson hitting the market, I told you right away that people were going to pay a lot of money for him because his last year that he had with the Texans when he was playing looked really good still. And if he had even a half of that tank still left in him, he could still be a potentially really good pickup for people. Unfortunately, turns out he had nothing left in the tank, but you and I didn't know that.
Yeah, that tank
Hindsight
was
being
on
2020,
E.
yes. Yeah. Hindsight being 2020, yes, Baker would have been the smarter move. At the time, I don't think it was the worst decision, especially being that Baker did come off of that really bad season. I was even in that vein where I was like, I could see it working out. Unfortunately, it really didn't. It really
I
didn't.
think the problem is not that you made the trade; it's that
It was the big contract
the
they gave
big
him, to be
contract.
honest.
Exactly. Without
Yeah.
that, I don't think this is as bad as everybody makes it out to be.
Yeah, it's that contract that is ridiculously terrible. But to be honest, they had to give him that contract because we know the Falcons were in that bid, who were also bidding a huge contract. So
Yeah.
still dumb, but yes.
All right. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of what we're doing here today.
Yay! The fun things!
This is the fun things. We are going to talk awards. And now, these are our awards. So,
Yes.
when we get to certain ones that you may not understand or that aren't common, we will tell you what they are and what our criteria are for them. We're obviously going to start at the top. We're going to start with the most valuable player in the league. I'm pretty sure you and I have the same exact person for this. Because it's who should be the MVP.
It's absolutely who should be MVP. And it's the same person that I picked last time.
Yeah, and I put him down for my MVP. Because in a
Yep.
fair and just world, he would be the MVP.
Yeah, no
And
question.
it is Saquon Barkley.
It's Saquon Barkley. Yeah, it's... When you can carry a team quite literally on your back all the way to the Super Bowl, it's hard not to be like, yeah, he's definitely not the most powerful, most valuable player, period. And also, what running backs do that? I mean, it doesn't happen often. Once in a generation do you see a running back actually legitimately carry their team to playoffs, and let alone Super Bowl. I honestly, this feels like, all things being what they are, this feels like Barkley quite literally running his way to an MVP, running his way to a Super Bowl ring, and running his way into Super Bowl MVP, to be honest with you.
And quite possibly running his way into having his bust in Canton.
Oh, absolutely. No question. If he completes the full thing, absolutely. Just off the one season, you could make that argument almost.
Absolutely. There's no question in my mind about any of that.
Also, that would be the biggest middle finger to the Giants you could give.
Oh, absolutely. And I would laugh.
I would laugh really hard, too.
Turns out my professor in communications is a Philly sports fan.
Oof. Unfortunate, but at the same time, I'm sure they're happy about it.
I saw he was wearing a Flyers shirt last night during the lecture.
Of course.
I was like, is that a Flyers shirt? And he goes, yes.
And you're like, no. You're like, I don't really like you guys.
You know what, though? I don't hate them as much as I dislike Dallas.
I dislike them for very different reasons. Mostly they're fans. A lot of
it's mostly their fans, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think we need to go too much further into diving into.
Normally, we're going to break down why we pick our certain picks.
Yeah, but this one is pretty self-evident. There's not a player elsewhere in the league that can take over an entire game like Saquon Barkley.
Especially at running back. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's at a position that is so
like normally you see
difficult.
Quarterbacks taking over the game. That's a very popular thing to see.
That's a very common thing. No.
But having a running back do it?
Yeah. Crazy.
It's
crazy.
Now we're going to go to the other end of the spectrum. We're going to give out our award for the LVP, the least valuable player to their team. Who you got?
So, I do need to preface this. The person I picked not for their on-the-field performance. Their on-the-field performance is actually pretty damn good. But it's everything else surrounding the player.
Did you pick George Pickens?
I did not. I did not pick George Pickens. But it is everything surrounding the player that made me pick this, because it told me that this player is not only dangerous, They're going to continue to be dangerous, and they don't give a fuck about it. So my pick is Aziz Al-Shair. That guy absolutely is a danger to other players on the field. He's a danger to refs. He's a danger to other fans. That guy seriously does not give a shit about anyone but himself.
That's not a bad pick. I went with a different direction in mind, and I thought, who got paid a shitload of money that absolutely did not deserve it?
There's quite a few of those.
Yes, but there was one that came to the forefront of my mind, considering what his team then did in the draft.
Okay.
And that would be my LVP is Kirk Cousins.
Ooh, okay. Yep, I can see that.
Who got paid a buttload of money on a 3-year deal from Atlanta, over $100 million, I believe.
Yes.
And they drafted a quarterback whom by the end of the season they were starting because Kirk stunk so badly. The
Honestly, I was
question is
expecting
whether or not he starts next season.
True. I don't think he will. I
Not Kirk. I meant the rookie.
Oh yeah, I don't think Kirk's gonna start. That's what I'm saying. I think the rookie will start. I was gonna say you could easily also. I thought about it. You could have easily put Deshaun Watson here. Let's be honest. He played like ass.
Yeah, but like.
But it felt an easy pick, right?
Yeah, that's
it
like
felt
an easy pick. Like, and I thought about Aaron Rodgers, but he didn't play super terribly, especially when you
mostly not good.
Especially if you compare him to Kirk. But he wasn't the only problem on the Jets. That whole team didn't play very good.
They had a lot of issues with that, yeah.
So the Falcons, who were very up and down, their primary stopping point for major losses in their season were the fact that Kirk would come out and throw 3 interceptions.
Even then, if you look at the way he played, I think somebody pointed it out, and I think it was probably, I forget I don't think it was Brett Coleman. I think it was it Franchise Guy? I forget. They were looking at the way Kirk plays, and if you look at the way he played this last season compared to previous Viking seasons, you can just see he's not comfortable in his mobility with that.
Yeah,
with that pop.
He was not comfortable yet with that.
He was not
Achilles.
fully healed yet, and it was very obvious.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that means he can come back next season and be fully healed and ready to go, hard to say. But I think it's very telling that these Achilles injuries are, while physically able to recoup and come back from, I think as far as being ready to play, I think it's still a problem.
Yes. 100%.
So, yeah.
100%. So yeah, that was that's why I picked Kirk Cousins. I feel like he got overpaid and then underdelivered. And I don't think there was another player that did more damage to his team with his presence more than his absence.
Honestly, probably. Yeah. I mean, Deshaun Watson, you can make that argument for, but yeah, outside of those two, I can see that.
All right. So, let's move in, before we go anywhere else, let's move into the Rookies of the Year. The way that we did
you want to go straight to the rookies, okay.
I want to go straight to the rookies, and then we'll move back around to, like, most improved and come back and stuff like that. So, the way we do it is we break it up by offensive and defensive rookie, and we do NFC and AFC. That way, there's the ability to pick more than one, because sometimes there are seasons where you just go, oh my god.
Yeah.
Where multiple people deserve it. Starting on the NFC side, who is, and I'm sure we have the same guy, your NFC Offensive Rookie of the Year. There's only one.
I'm not going to preface it. It's Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is the Offensive Rookie of the Year. There's no question. That last game he did play was pretty shite, to be honest. But at the same time, consider the fact you're a rookie. You've made it further than most people have. It happens. It's a bad game.
Yeah.
They're going to happen. But overall, you look at how he played and how he was able to make some of those victories on those last-minute runs. Like, I mean, dude, as long as he isn't a Peyton Hillis where he just regresses super hard next year, I think you got a new star easily as your next QB.
100%. I think it was fun to watch. I think it was interesting to see. I enjoyed watching him all year, and As
Yeah.
long as you don't terribly have a problem, next year's going to be
Yep.
even better. And
Exactly.
by that news, looking at the way the Cowboys performed and the way the Commanders performed, I think it's pretty obvious to say Dan Quinn was a better coach than Mike McCarthy. Maybe you should have kept him around and got rid of McCarthy earlier.
Maybe, but at the same time, I mean, Dan Quinn. As much as I like Dan Quinn, you give him a Jane Daniels. I feel like Mike McCarthy, if you give him a Jane,
I'm
would have had the same amount of
I'm
success.
more convinced that he was the best defensive coach, and that was pretty obvious.
Honestly, based on the talent that he had to work with, that I will agree with. The talent he had to work with was not optimal, and they still managed to have a decent defense despite that. So I'll give Dan Quinn credit there at least.
So who was your, and I'm sure we're going to have the same guy here as well, your NFC Defensive Rookie of the Year?
Honestly, you could have actually had two different people here. It could have been Verse, but I went with Braden Fisk instead.
Okay.
I actually prefer Braden Fisk personally over Jared Verse, but Jared Verse is very good. Don't get me wrong. If you picked Jared Verse, I totally get it. I went Braden Fisk. They're both really good. It's hard to be mad at either one of them. They're both really good.
And the fact that they play for the same team is just
ridiculous.
And yes, I did go with Jared Verse. He had more sacks. I think he had a little bit better stats, but getting the amount of sacks that you got out of Fisk on the line is still highly impressive.
That's what I'm saying. It's just the position he plays is not a common huge sack number position, and he still got a lot of sacks at that position.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, fair enough, Fisk. You, man.
I knew he was going to be good, and I think I called it out in our stuff. I was like, I want to make a highlight of this. He was fast as balls in the draft.
See, I that's the funny part is a lot of people knew Jared Verse would be good. Not everyone was 100% on Fisk, and that's the fact that the Rams were able to get both of them is disgusting.
It's just and I'm not looking forward to playing the Rams.
And I think it's funny because I remember when they did these picks, you were like, you can't really replace Aaron Donald. I think Jared Verse and Fisk can replace Aaron Donald.
I think you can't really replace Aaron Donald with one player. But I think you're going to do a good job of trying with two.
I think this is the closest you're going to get.
This is the closest you're going to get. I did say that. And you know what?
Yep.
It worked.
Yep, it worked. That was crazy.
All right. Who is your AFC Offensive Rookie of the Year? There's a couple of choices.
Easy one.
Yeah.
This was an easy one for me. I went with Brock Bowers here.
So did I.
I just felt like the guy needed to get his flowers somewhere in this list, and this is the best place to put it.
There is a contention for me between Bo Nix and Brock Bowers, and
I saw that. Yeah, I did the same thing. But I think Brock is just
broke all the tight end records for a rookie.
Yeah.
I
think he's going to continue to be a huge success.
Oh,
for him
absolutely. Too. Even if they get a wide receiver, he's still going to be a major part of their passing game. To me, Brock Bowers is everything Kyle Pitts was supposed to be.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. 100% agree.
Kyle Pitts has been nothing more than he's had
flash
one or two
pan.
good seasons, and then he's been a disappointment.
He's been a flash in the pan.
Yep, super flash in the pan. But Brock Bowers is the real deal. Watching him play is magnificent. He really enjoys playing football, and you can tell just how good he really is. All right. Your AFC Defensive Rookie of the Year. Now, this one was not very clear-cut.
Yeah, this one was a little hard for me. I'm not going to lie to you. I had several people on my list, and I had to slowly kind of decide and chop them off. And with that being said, I did pick Chop Robinson. I felt he was a very interesting player for Miami. While he wasn't super explosive all the time, there were enough games where he showed that ability to cut around the line in a very quick and efficient way with a lot of power behind it, that I think that he has the most potential out of everyone that I saw to continue performing even better than what he already did.
So for me, I didn't go with Chop, although he was on my list. I went with Kalen Bullock out of Houston. Had the most interceptions of any rookie, passes defended, a good amount of tackles. I think as a rookie, he showed out quite well. And playing center field back there for the Texans, I think they've got a good one back there. I think he's going to be pretty good for years to come. You just need to shore up your offensive line a little bit so that CJ Stroud isn't running for his life. We'll get
My
there.
God, that was horrible. Yeah.
We'll get there. But yeah, no, I went with Kalen Bullock. I think that was a very good draft pick for them. I think they did a great job with that. I'm really interested to see how he progresses forward in his career.
Right.
All right. We're going to go most improved player.
Most improved, okay.
Most improved. So this is for a player that's been around for a little bit. So basically, because there's been all of this discussion about the comeback player of the year, for me, I wanted to separate it into people that have been around and bounced around and maybe been backups a lot, and now it's the most improved player. So, who has made themselves a better player this year? This is different than a light bulb moment. This is a career-changing moment.
Yeah. And to me, I think it's very clear we probably have the same player. Sam Darnold easily has this award.
Takes this 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even think of another player you could easily put in here that would be arguably.
No, there is not, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's very clear that it was Sam Darnold. I mean, talk about literally a 180 in your career. We're talking about somebody that almost had nothing coming to him, small contracts at best, backup player to probably going to get $100 million guaranteed contract in the offseason.
Yeah, he's probably going to get 4 to 5 years and $100 million easy.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna pay him. Is he
Someone's
worth
gonna pay
all of that? Probably.
Depends on the team.
Depends on the team, but maybe not.
Probably not.
I think he's a better than average starter.
Yes. And if you give him decent talent and a good enough O-line, he can be really good.
Exactly. I think that's where we're both kind of feeling on that. We both are very happy for what he did for the Vikings, but it's pretty obvious that he and the Vikings are going to go separate ways this offseason.
Probably. I'd be shocked that the rumors that I've been hearing about us keeping Darnold and trading McCarthy is batshit insane, by the way.
By the way, anybody who says we should trade up into a top 10 pick with McCarthy...
I saw that too. Like, what the fuck?
Is insane. This
Why?
Is not a great draft. You don't do that this year.
No.
Leave it alone. This is like
would
a
not be the
six-player
year for
draft.
It. Yeah, at best. At best.
Now, there are some good D linemen, and there are a few decent offensive tackles, but we don't need tackles. We need guards and centers. No. We can get guards and centers down further. In fact, I almost think we should trade out of our first-round pick.
Honestly, I almost kind of agree with that. We'll see what's on the board at that point, but based on what I've seen so far, trade out, get maybe another second or third.
Yeah, and pick up your guards and stuff in the second and third round. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Guard, center, yeah. All right. Now then, that being said, our comeback player of the year. This is for somebody who did get injured and then came back from injury. I know who I put here, and I made no bones about it. Who did you pick for your comeback player of the year?
So I don't know who you put here. Honestly, there were options. I don't know if you picked. It's possible you picked the same player, but I'm not sure. I went with J.K. Dobbins because, quite frankly, you look at J.K. when he's on that team playing for I think the Chargers, correct? Right?
Yeah.
You look at him when he's on the field playing versus when he's not on the field playing, and it's very clearly night and day difference for what he brings to that team when he is healthy and playing. So, in my mind, I see J.K. Dobbins as clearly a player that has a lot of stuff in the tank, as long as he's not injured. And the season that he put up, despite having some missed games here and there, I think is still quite impressive.
I can get with that. I went with Joe Burrow, who did have an injury that took him out last year and did put up ridiculous numbers this year. But yes, I do acknowledge that he had to put those numbers up because he was trying to outthrow a really bad defense.
Horrible defense.
I feel bad for him. I feel really bad for him.
Don't worry, it's probably I can promise you already this isn't the last time we'll be hearing Joe Burrow.
No, it's not. I'm sure it's not.
So for those who just for you and for everyone watching, I tried to make sure I didn't pick the same player or the same
Me too.
person multiple times.
Me too.
So
I
only one.
very much
So if I
tried
gave
that.
someone an award already, they're not gonna get another one.
Exactly. Same here. You're not going to see another player get the same award. All right.
Yeah.
With that being said, let's move on to the Peyton Hillis Award. The Peyton Hillis Award. So for those that do not know, that it is the most regressed player because Peyton Hillis had one fantastically great season and then became garbage.
Yep.
Now, he did save someone's life recently, a year ago, 2 years ago.
He's still a good person. Yeah.
He's a great person. But as a player, he had one super season, got signed to a massive contract, and was never that ever again.
Yeah.
They called him the Avalanche, the Great White Hope.
Yep.
And that vanished after one season, like a ghost.
Yep, like a ghost. Ooh.
Right.
So, in my mind, it's very clear. Again, I might be slightly cheating a little bit. But to me, it's very clear based on what I've seen that this player is not what they used to be, not even close to what they used to be. It's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, come on. The guy is clearly not even close to what he was when he was on Green Bay. I realize there's still that argument that I made earlier about possibly still recovering from an Achilles injury. Even if he comes back next season and is fully healthy, I still don't think he's even close to what he was going to be at Green Bay. I think it's very clear that his best football is behind him at this point.
That's fair enough. I did not put him here for this award. Instead, and I think there are a number of factors that go into this, so I'm going to preface this by saying that yes, this player has regressed, but I don't think it's permanent, and I think it's fixable, and I think it will be fixed. And that's C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, I had him on mine too as well. Yeah. I just wanted to blame too much of the line problem on it, so that's why I was like,
a lot of that, but he also didn't make great decisions this year. There were a lot of like, you lost Nico for a little bit, and then you lost Diggs, and then you got Nico back, and then you lost Dell, and you didn't have Mixon for a couple of games. And like, there was a lot of injury rotation on that team, and I can understand how that could mess with a young quarterback.
Yep.
But at the same time, it would be hard to look at his numbers from last year and this year and go, he didn't have some kind of regression.
Right. I get it.
So we'll see how he does next year, but as of right now, I got to call it a regression. It's the Peyton Hillis Award to me.
Fair enough.
That being said, let's move along. The Hard Luck Award. This is for a player that tried hard, but just whatever they did, they kept sinking deeper. Didn't matter what happened around them. It just kept sucking.
Yeah, I'm not gonna pick any bones about it. This is my Joe Burrow Award. Not because of him. That team, no matter what he did, fucking sucked. Like, I don't know a better person to receive this award. Like, I gotta imagine how angry. Like, I know me. I'd be so fucking angry, being like, "Look at what I'm doing, and I'm still losing games." Like, I just feel bad for the dude. Like, this season was awful, not because of him, but I do feel like he had literally the hardest luck. Like, look how good my numbers are. Look at what I'm doing, and we're still losing football games.
For me, I'm going to put somebody else here. Somebody you've already mentioned. For me, this is where Aaron Rodgers goes. Because everybody said, you know what, even if Aaron isn't fully Aaron, they've got a great running game. And their defense is pretty good. And that should be able to carry them. Their running game was non-existent. Could not get it going. Their defense that everybody said was good turned into like a pumpkin. And Aaron Rodgers himself wasn't very good either. Even though you had a bunch of his friends as receivers, even when you got Devontae Adams, they fired the coach. They've now fired the GM. Nothing worked. This season was just a total wash for them. And that's why I got to put Aaron Rodgers here. It didn't matter what he did on or off the field. He couldn't ignite this team, and it just fell apart around him. And he's left going, I thought this was a good house.
Pretty much. The house of cards are falling.
Yep.
Yep.
So, all right, the next one. The Perseverance Award. This is for a player that got punched in the mouth by the league, the team, whatever, and didn't let it get them down, and they rose from the ashes like a phoenix, and they just kept on trucking.
So again, I'm cheating a little bit here. That's fine. I'm picking a player that quite literally almost got punched in the mouth. Damn near, quite literally dead. I'm giving it to Damar Hamlin. The guy he did quite literally die on the field. Last season was a little rough, obviously, I assume, still from coming back. But this last season he's had was actually really good. He had a legitimately good season here. And considering the fact that everything that's happened over the last 2 years for him, I think it's hard not to be like, I mean, the dude is quite literally persevering from dying. Like, I mean, I think that's pretty impressive if you ask me.
All right, that's fair enough. For me, I went a different direction with it. That's a fair enough assessment of it. For me, I went with a guy who got benched this season after having a very poor season last season, and then came out and looked good.
You're giving it to Bryce Young.
I'm giving it to Bryce Young. You're absolutely right. Dude got literally lambasted for being the first overall pick, looking like shit last season, being crap, got benched for Andy Dalton this season, and there are people questioning whether or not he would have even come back in had Dalton not gotten hurt in a car wreck.
Be fair, reasonable question.
And when he came back in, something clicked. I don't know what it was. You don't know what it was. We don't know what it was. But he looked good, and instead of looking miserable, he looked like he was having fun playing football. I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. But I got to give that some perseverance, man.
Fair enough.
All right. The Ryan Leaf Award. This is for somebody who was drafted in the first round, who probably did not deserve, upon hindsight now, you look back and you go, probably didn't deserve to be drafted in the first round.
Yes. So when I'm picking for this particular pick, and I will say that there's one other category here also when we pick, I don't typically pick from the latest draft. I typically go back either one or two drafts. I do that personally because I feel like I can't properly determine these factors on rookie seasons alone.
If you're talking about the award, I think you're talking about, we're going to do that one next. And I usually do one from a draft a little bit further back, and then I do one from last draft.
Yeah, so I personally don't like to do last draft. That's just a personal take. I prefer to look at least one or two drafts back at minimum. So I went back to, I'm trying to remember, was this a 2023 pick? I think this was a 2023 pick. So not last year, but the year prior. And I want to preface that I love, I shouldn't say love, I really like this player. I like the speed of this player. I like the size of this player. This player is a great player if you just amputated his hands and gave him new ones. I'm putting Quentin Johnston on this list. Yeah. The dude's got all of the attributes outside of the fucking hands. I don't know, man.
All right, I went back a little bit further for mine, and he's not super high drafted. He's close to the bottom of the first round.
Yeah, Johnson was about the midway point.
Yeah, this one's more to the bottom of the first round. But I looked at him and I said, based on his career, there's absolutely no way that he should have ever been drafted in the first round. In fact, I don't know that I'd have taken him in the 7th round based on his career.
Oof. Okay.
And it is a Vikings draft pick.
Oh, you're picking Lewis, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm picking Lewis Cine. I hate to say it because I don't know how much the leg break
I think that
his
played a
career.
huge impact, to be honest, based upon what I've seen. It seems like that really had a major impact on his career.
But he never recovered from it.
No.
Ever. And looking at everything that we've got to work with,
It's hard not to see that, yeah.
It's hard not to see that and go, I don't even know if he's in football anymore.
Yeah. I think he's on someone's practice squad, if I think, right? I don't remember.
I feel bad doing it, but looking back at it, there's probably somebody else we could have picked there.
Probably true.
All right, now the one that I picked from the last draft, the "You Were Probably Drafted Too High" award, and the reason I picked from last draft is it says probably.
Yeah, I get that. I still went with a 2022 pick personally because I still think this is a player that you're going to still see plenty of. But I'm still kind of in that, like, you probably were drafted too high, considering the circumstances around the player. And I want to make it very clear. I think this player will still have success in the league. I think this player can still be a superstar, even. But based on where they were drafted at, and by whom they were drafted by, I think it may have been too high. And I'm going with Anthony Richardson. And it might seem a little contrarian a little bit, but I truly believe with how much of a project he was, he should not have gone to the Colts 4th overall. The Colts were not in a position to sit him properly and let him learn, 1. And 2, I think a lot of people were too wowed by his physical attributes to the point of not realizing how much he still needed to learn.
Yes.
I think he still was a first rounder, but I don't think he was an early first rounder, to be honest.
I would have... I don't know. There's a part of me that says I'd have swapped him and Levis.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I could see that. I can understand that. But I don't even know if Levis deserved to be a 4th round.
No, I don't think
or
he did
first
either,
overall pick either.
Like, I was trying to figure out anybody else that I'd have put there, and
I don't know. If honestly, I would have moved down, but there was too many teams that were squabbling at the bit, going for him. So I think anyone that would have picked him up there almost would have been too much, unless they already had a good quarterback and were going to sit him.
Yep. So. And that's one of the things that you might remember I said needed to happen.
No, yeah, and I agreed with you. I thought that was probably the best way to do it, and yeah.
My "You Were Probably Drafted Too High" does come from this last draft, and looking at everything else that happened, and I think my biggest problem with picking this player is I don't know if it's him or the team.
Okay.
And it's Rome Odunze.
I'm not going to lie. When I was looking at the list for this year, if there was anyone I thought about, he was the one that I did look at the most of, like, maybe. But it's hard to say. It's hard to say. Because there were enough games where he, like, popped off really well.
I don't really know that he ever super popped off. But, like,
he had 2 games that were really good.
Not the way that I think we expected. And not when you look at, like, that kid from Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah. Or even Malik Neighbors for that.
Or Malik Neighbors. But I think Neighbors went before him to the Giants.
Yes.
So you couldn't have Neighbors there. Or even Xavier Worthy.
I would disagree with that one. Worthy only had maybe the same amount of games that he actually had that were any good for the Chiefs.
He actually started looking a lot better, I think, after
the playoffs have been a lot better, yeah.
Yeah, well, the bye, too, as he started getting more reps and everything else.
100%.
I think that's begun to look a little bit better for him.
But it looked I'll say this. They look too similar of players for how Rome Odunze got drafted as high as he did. Yes, I'll agree with that. Honestly, I'm also going to argue you could have I thought about putting Marvin Harrison Jr. here. You want to talk about a letdown of a player?
Too. Oh my God, yes. But I really don't feel like we're going to look back and say that he did. I think he's going to figure it out.
Yeah, I just think this was a poor year, to be honest.
Yes, he had a very poor year. But yeah, look, I expected more out of Rome, especially with Caleb Williams and all the other talent on that team. I thought you guys were going to really get something. And then you didn't. And that disappoints me. So we'll have to see.
I think it might be just the situation at the time. It might be the same thing with Marvin Harrison, where next year all of a sudden they'll have a really good year.
I hope that's what I'm hoping to see, but we'll have to see. All right. We'll save the two weird ones for last. Let's do, because there are two that are player or team.
True.
So we're gonna do it this way then. Who was? Well, this is the most disappointing team award. The team you had the highest expectations for, and they failed to meet them utterly.
Honestly, looking at what my list was for what I expected teams to be at, this is a no-brainer to me. The Jets were easily the most disappointing team for what I expected from them. Like, I was expecting a top 10 team, and I got a bottom 5 team. Like, this was garbage compared to what I expected. Which is funny, because I'm pretty sure I said the same thing last year.
Yes, but we gave them a pass last year because Rodgers' Achilles exploded like 90 seconds into the season.
Yep.
So for
you don't get a pass this time.
So for me, I went a different route, and I said I didn't know which team we were going to see this year out of this team, but I really had some hopes for them, and then they really disappointed me. And it's the boys from Duval.
Oh, the Jacksonville, yeah.
The Jacksonville Jaguars, to me, were the most disappointing team. You were set up to be pretty good. You had that run that was really good 2 years ago now. And last year you went from really good to really bad, and I was like, well, maybe you can work it out. You didn't. You didn't. It was bad. It was bad. You should be ashamed. I'm sure we're going to have the same one for this next one, which is the most surprising team.
So, it is probably the same thing, but to be fair, I was higher up on pretty much everyone on this team originally. I was like saying, like, hey, 9 wins is definitely possible. Obviously, 14 wins, fucking insane. But it is what it is. The Vikings are obviously the most surprising team. I mean, no one in their grandmother thought that this team had a chance to even make playoffs, let alone win 14 games.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. That's not the team I chose, though.
Okay.
To me, there was another team, because it's been a perennial crap team. A team that nobody has wanted to play for, and a team that everybody has written off in their division and gone, oh, there's a win. Every single season for quite some time now. The Washington Commanders.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Absolutely, to me, the most surprising team, considering they led the division for a little bit. I mean,
I had them pretty high on my list as
see,
like
I didn't have
actual
them very
dark
high.
horses. I kept saying they were going to be a dark horse team,
list.
so
I thought they were.
Yeah,
I thought their defense was just going to drag them down. Didn't matter how much offense you got, it was going to look bad. And I didn't 100% believe in Jaden Daniels. So to me,
see, I did. I had them in my top 20. Like I expected, like they again exceeded expectations, but I was pretty high up
Commanders
on them.
very much exceeded expectations. I was a little higher on the Vikings, I think, than some people.
Oh yeah,
but that's why they didn't make it, and the Commanders did. All right. Now for the two awards that are a little weird because they can be either a player or a team. The Light Bulb Award. What team or player did you see the light click on for this season?
So I decided to go with a player over a team. You could pick a team here easily. But I went with a player, one that you've already mentioned, where you mentioned that there was a click that just happened to happen partway through the season. I think it's Bryce Young, man. Like, I think the guy finally figured out what was going wrong. I think, honestly, based upon the way he played and how much he was enjoying football, I believe he was probably just taking shit too seriously. And I think that was his problem. I think, like, I could be wrong, but you look at him prior to the benching and after the benching, it's hard not to see that there seems to be some of that involved. Maybe it's not the whole solution, but it does seem like it part of it. I think he was taking it maybe a little too seriously and getting too hard on himself versus just enjoying the game. To me, I saw clear and obvious signs of maybe not first overall pick, but still a potential starter if he continues moving forward.
I'm not going to say that's a bad pick. I did also pick a player, but my player is a little weirder. Because this player wasn't somebody that got heard of until really this season. even though he's been in the league now. I think this is his 3rd season. People just generally didn't hear his name. And I looked at his stats and everything else, and I was like, oh, wow. It looks like something clicked for him this season. It was the whole season, too. And that's a guy whose name our father totally messed up. And it's Nick Bonito. Burrito Benito.
Nick Burrito.
Yes. Nick Bonito gets my light bulb award because I don't know what happened this season, but he put up some damned impressive numbers.
True, yeah.
And we'll see if it clicks on and stays on for next season too, but yeah. He looks like the real deal at linebacker, and I'm very impressed with him.
That's fair.
He was like, every time we were calling stats this year, Nick Bonito's name would come up. And I was like, that's fair enough, you know?
Yeah.
So that's something for me to say, hey, Nick, good job. Here's your light bulb award.
Mm-hmm.
And our final award, the Setting Sun Award. This is for the player or team that quite obviously they're riding off into the sunset. The sun has gone down. It's time to pull the plug.
So there was obviously plenty of options here as far as players or teams are concerned. I did go with player ultimately. I did think of a couple teams that I thought were like the Jets, obviously, but at the same time, is it really a setting sun when it never really rose to begin with, you know? So I didn't go with the Jets. I didn't go with the Browns. I went with a player who historically has had always good numbers and played well, and maybe wasn't a perfect player all the time, but still, you kind of knew what to expect when he was playing. It's Kirk Cousins. I really believe that he's not only on the back half of his career, but I think honestly, if I was Kirk Cousins, I might give it maybe one more try at another team just to see what happens. But I would be considering potential retirement at this point, to be honest. You've made a lot of money. You've played well. I don't think you're a Super Bowl contending quarterback. I don't think you ever really were. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like his time in the NFL is slowly coming to an end.
Considering that he was drafted in the same draft as RG3 in like the 4th or 5th round as a backup flyer, I think you've done pretty damn well for yourself, dude.
Oh yeah, 100%, yeah.
My Setting Sun Award did go to a team, and I thought about this team, and I was like, they've had a couple of rises and falls, and I think, again, at this point, the sun is setting on the current incarnation of the team, even though it never fully rose to the heights that...
Cowboys!
It actually is the Dallas Cowboys. The sun never fully rose as high as
never fully rose
to,
ever, yeah.
But I think it's setting on the current incarnation. Obviously, you're going to need a new running back. Obviously, it looks like
QB
Dak
has to be. Yeah.
Dak's going to have to go. You're going to lose a chunk of your defensive line. You're going to lose a chunk of your offensive line. You're going to have to go into rebuild mode for a few years. And So that's happening. Also, with the fact that you chose Brian Schottenheimer as your head coach.
And then himself, basically, while he's like literally standing next to him, talks about how dangerous of a choice he's making, and he's really like, dude, way to shit on your coach when he's right fucking next to you. What the fuck, Jerry?
What do we expect?
If I was the coach, I'd be like, Jerry, shut your fucking mouth. Like, what the
but
fuck?
you didn't choose Brian because he wanted to, because he would say that to Jerry. He chose Brian because he can stick his hand up his backside and puppet him.
Yeah, Brian is a yes man.
Yep.
Hopefully we're wrong, and then he'll actually put some balls on him. But I don't know, man.
I don't think so, man. Like we've both said, we don't think that teams' fortunes are fully going to change until Jerry relinquishes control, which will happen when they pry it from his cold, dead hands.
Quite literally, probably.
All right. I don't really want to talk about the Super Bowl, so we're not going to talk about the Super Bowl.
Fair enough. Neither one of us really has any interest to talk about it or even predict it. Like,
I'm going to have it on. I'm more interested in the commercials than the game.
I'm more interested in the commercials. Honestly, I'm hoping, you know what? It'd be great to see, long form trailers of either Superman or the Fantastic Four or the
Yes.
Daredevil. Like, I'd love to see those.
Yeah.
Fuck the rest of that.
I am so happy they brought back the guy to play Daredevil too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not Matthew Mercer.
Charlie Kirk?
Charlie Cox. There we
Charlie
go.
Cox.
There you go.
I
You
knew
got
we
the
were gonna
first
get
name.
the
I got the last. I got the last name.
Charlie Cox.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they got all the original cast
Yeah.
too. So
So I'm
you
really
know what? I'm ecstatic for it. You
I'm
know
ecstatic
what?
for
I'm
that
ecstatic.
too. I'm happy. Now not much else to do, but I do have a power rankings for the NHL.
All right.
And there is another new team on here. All right, starting down at number 10, we have the Colorado Avalanche. They are 31, 21, and 2. It's 64 points, and in their last 10, they are 5, 4, and 1. They're struggling to kind of find their rhythm without Rantanen and bringing in Natchez. I think it won't take long because Natchez is a goal-scoring machine, and I think we'll begin to see them gel a little bit, and we'll see how that works out. At number 9, we have the Columbus Blue Jackets, 26, 20, and 7, 59 points. They are 6, 3, and 1 in their last 10. Columbus is definitely coming on strong. Not a team to be taken lightly. If you're out east, they could easily vie for a wild card spot, and they're not somebody as a top contender that I would want to run into in the playoffs. Number 8, the Detroit Red Wings. The Yzer plan is starting to come together finally. They are 27, 21, and 5 with 59 points. Their last 10, they are 7, 2, and 1. They are starting to streak. They could be a player at the deadline looking for some stuff to really help get them over the top. But right now, they look like a hell of a good team. Number 7, the Ottawa Senators. 29, 20, and 4, 62 points. Last 10, 7, 2, and 1. The Senators have come absolutely to life, despite Ryan Hartman attempting to kill Tim Stützle and getting a 10-game suspension for it. Yes, the Wild's Ryan Hartman spiked Tim Stützle face first into the ice. Off the face-off.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's funny, but Jesus Christ.
So basically, Stützle was bent over like that after the face-off, and Hartman grabbed him on top and just went bloof.
I mean, it's funny.
He got a match penalty for it, and they gave him a 10-game suspension. And I was like, that's a really long suspension. But
that is kind of a rather large
I
suspension
get it,
for that.
that you're
compared
trying to
to
kill
what
a
we've seen.
guy.
But yeah, that's probably extreme.
That's a little extreme. I mean, we were losing the game like 5-0 at that point.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Funny. Probably shouldn't be doing that though.
No, probably should not be doing that. Number 6, the Edmonton Oilers, 32, 16, and 4, 68 points. Their last 10, they're 6, 3, and 1. Look, it's Edmonton. They are a beast. They are going to continue to be one.
Always. Yeah,
it's McDavid and Draisaitl, and you don't need to worry about the rest of it. Number 5, the Carolina Hurricanes, 32, 17, and 4, 68 points. Last 10, 6, 2, and 2. Look, Rantanen is fitting in fine there. I think this is going to be a really good team, and maybe this year they can finally do the thing that they can't normally do, which is make it to the finals and then make it to the Stanley Cup.
It's not gonna happen. Cut it. Cut it.
Number 4, the Florida Panthers, 32, 19, and 3, 67 points, last 10, 7, 3, and 0. It's the Panthers. They know when to turn it on. I don't know what else to say. They won a Stanley Cup for a reason.
That's fair.
Number 3, the Dallas Stars, 34, 17, and 1, 69 points, last 10, 7, 3, and 0. Again, it's Dallas. They're playing incredible hockey. They've got one of the best goalies in the league, and they're just going to keep doing what they do, which is scoring goals and making people look dumb. Number 2, the Washington Capitals, 34, 11, and 7, 75 points, last 10, 7, 2, and 1. Yeah, they're playing really, really, really good hockey right now. But unfortunately, they are not playing as good a hockey as, number one, the Winnipeg Jets. 37-14-3, 77 points, last 10, 8-2-0, including a win over the Capitals. Yeah, Winnipeg is back on whatever they were on to start the season, and they look like an amazing team. Now, here's the thing. They've always had really good teams, or they've had a lot of good teams in the regular season, and then postseason success seems to elude them. We will see if that happens this year. I do not think it's going to. The only thing, now, getting back into a little bit of extra talk, the only thing I want to say about the Super Bowl is that both Travis Kelce and Andy Reid have come out and said that they are not going to retire no matter the outcome.
Okay.
Okay.
Whatever you guys say. I don't believe you for a fucking second. So.
I don't either. I feel like if you win the three-peat, it's a great time to go out on top.
You could. Maybe they want to go for the 4. God,
no.
please help me if that happens.
Please, God, no.
I swear to God, if they three-peat, I'm going to be mad, let alone the fact if they have another run next year. Someone shoot me. That's not a timeline I want to live in, I'm sorry.
Well, we'll see. At any rate.
The thing... I got nothing to say. I was going to say things I'm not going to.
I got nothing else to say either. Does the
All right,
bird
then.
have something to say? Because he turned around real quick there.
You got anything to say? You know, for being pretty loud for most of the rest. Oh,
There we go.
how you doing, Loki? Anything else to add? Oh, yeah? Anything else? Loki? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
Yep, he's agreeing.
Alrighty. Well, in the meantime, we hope that whatever you guys want to accomplish, that you put your mind to it, you can get it done. We believe in you here. We believe that you are powerful enough to get your stuff done. What we will say is we'll see you back here next week. If you like what we've done, if you like what we've done, please consider giving us a subscribe. Please consider giving us a thumbs up, letting us know that you enjoy the content that we're making. And we will see you back here again next week after we review the Super Bowl. That none of us are actually really going to...
Is that next week?
That's this coming weekend, so we got to talk about it next week.
Wait, is this weekend? I thought it was next weekend.
It's this weekend, I believe.
Is it this Sunday, really? Is it really? No, I don't want it to be February 9th. No, it's not this weekend. It's next weekend. Wait, no, that is this weekend, isn't it? It is this weekend.
That is this weekend, yes.
No! I thought we were a week back already still.
No.
I wanted to... Oh, no. Okay. Nothing this Sunday. Ah. Okay. All right, fair enough.
Gird yourself. We'll see you all next week after our crying for the Super Bowl stuff. Yeah, we'll watch at least partially the Super Bowl. I think we should grade the commercials this year.
Pick our favorite commercials.
Yes, let's do it.
Our most favorite. What's our least favorite?
Exactly. Why did we like this? Why didn't we like this?
What was the most entertaining one?
Because it's going to be more interesting than the game.
You know what? Fuck it. I'll rate the halftime show if I have to.
Who's on the halftime show this year?
Kendrick Lamar.
Who's that?
Rapper.
Okay. Tells you how much I care.
He had a beef with Drake last year.
Oh yeah, that's right. Didn't he absolutely end Drake in that beef?
Oh, he bodied the shit out of Drake. Kendrick is actually legitimately a good rapper if you're just looking for like legitimate substance to what he says. It's not bad. It's not my favorite. I prefer other rappers over Kendrick, but he's not bad.
Okay. Well, we'll keep that in. All right, guys. we will say that we'll see you back here next week. In the meantime, stay bearded. Peace out.
Tomorrow, my beard's gonna get shorter.